Long before Thomas Edison introduced the phonograph, French inventor Edouard Léon Scott de Martinville had already begun exploring the idea of capturing sound nearly 2 decades earlier. At that time, sound was considered an ephemeral and invisible phenomenon. Nearly 20 years before Scott's invention, the phonogram, Scott imagined recording sound not to replay it instead. It was created to visually capture the waveform of sound. While working as an editor and typographer at a scientific publishing house in Paris during the 1800s, Scott came across a text on human physiology that sparked his imagination. Inspired by its description of the year, he envisioned what he later called the imprudent idea of photographing the world, and that's how he began building the first sound recording device. He explained that, "I cover a plate of glass with an exceedingly thin stratum of lampblack. Above, I fix an acoustic trumpet with a membrane the diameter of a 5-franc coin at its small end, the physiological tympanum, eardrum. At its center, I affix a stylus, a boar's bristle, a centimeter or more in length, fine but suitably rigid. I carefully adjust the trumpet so the stylus barely grazes the lampblack. Then, as the glass plate slides horizontally in a well-formed groove at a speed of 1 meter per second, one speaks in the vicinity of the trumpet's opening, causing the membranes to vibrate and the stylus to trace figures." He called this process phonography, the self-writing of sound. He didn't expect perfectly formed letters of the alphabet to emerge from the stylus. But he did believe the calligraphy inscribed in the soot, the words that wrote themselves.
In 1857, the phonograph captured the attention of SAIN, the Société d'Encouragement pour l'Industrie Nationale, an organization that assessed new technologies and their potential contributions to French industry. Scott spent the summer and fall improving his invention with the support of SAIN and the guidance of its members. They upgraded from a pane of glass, which recorded only a snippet of sound, to a rotating cylinder that could record for 20 seconds or so. They experimented with different arrangements of the recording chain. They made experimental recordings that we can hear today using digital technologies. In 1859, Scott partnered with instrument maker Rudolf Koenig, a skilled maker of scientific instruments, to introduce the phonograph to laboratories as a tool for the emerging science of acoustics. Koenig featured the device in his very first catalog, marking its official entry into scientific use. Then Scott used the phonograph to create a series of recordings, singing songs, reciting poetry, and speaking in various languages. These recordings, along with his earlier experiments together with his earlier trials, constitute the first known instances of humanity capturing its voice. Scott's work, though largely unrecognized at the time, stands as a crucial prelude to the era of sound reproduction.
If Scott de Martinville dreamed of writing sound, Thomas Edison dreamed of hearing it again. Thomas Edison was the original tech. Self-educated, hard of hearing, and always tinkering. He held over 1,000 patents. Before the phonograph, he had already revolutionized the telegraph and invented the electric vote recorder. But in 1877, he did something that had never been done before: he captured sound. He called it the talking machine. Edison was working on improving the telegraph and telephone, and he noticed that sound vibrations could be etched onto a surface. His idea: if you could record those vibrations, you might be able to play them back. The telegraph and the telephone, two inventions that connected people across distances, but only in real time. Edison quickly sketched his idea and handed it to his trusted mechanic, John Croce. Working tirelessly, Croce built the first model in just 30 hours. The machine was simple: a cylinder wrapped in tin foil, a hand crank, and a needle. Using a cylinder wrapped in tin foil, a hand crank, and a needle, Edison built a prototype. He shouted into the mouthpiece, turned the crank, and out came the first recorded words in history.
At a time when technological advancements were reshaping daily life, Edison's creation stood out as a defining milestone. It was the first device capable of both recording and reproducing sound, ushering in a new era in music, entertainment, and communication. The phonograph's development, however, was not the result of a straightforward pursuit. Rather, it was the product of a series of experiments rooted in Edison's efforts to enhance telegraphic and telephonic communication. While attempting to increase the efficiency of telegraph systems, Edison explored methods of transmitting multiple messages simultaneously over a single wire, a concept realized through the harmonic telegraph. These explorations sparked a profound insight: sound could potentially be captured and rendered as a physical trace. Building upon this revelation, Edison devised a mechanism that used a stylus to inscribe sound vibrations onto a rotating cylinder wrapped in tinfoil. When the grooves on the cylinder were retraced by a playback needle, the original sound could be heard once more. Sometime between December 4 and December 22, 1877, this concept, once thought inconceivable, was validated in a public demonstration in which Edison successfully demonstrated his invention by recording and playing back his voice reciting, "Mary Had a Little Lamb." The result was astonishing: a machine that could capture and reproduce sound, a feat previously deemed impossible. It signaled a fundamental shift in how sound could be stored, reproduced, and shared. Despite facing legal challenges and fierce competition in the years that followed, Edison's invention marked the beginning of recorded audio and laid the foundation for countless innovations in communication and media that continue to this day. Before the 22nd of December, Edison visited the offices of Scientific American magazine to show off his new device. They published the below article on December 22.
How a phonograph works. Phonograph works without electricity. Scott took a small wooden barrel and layered the inside of it with plaster of Paris to form a cone at the aperture end. He fastened a cap to hold a piece of parchment, and then attached a boar's bristle to the center of it. The end of the bristle lightly touched a cylindrical drum, which could be rotated and shifted by turning a hand crank on a thread around the cylinder. He wrapped paper coated in lampblack. Any sound that went into the cone while cranking the cylinder caused the bristle to make a waveform tracing on the paper. Thus, it was proven that sound could be captured and recorded in a fixed form. Scott called this device the phonograph. Since he was only concerned with documenting sound, he never developed a method to play back. Thomas Edison took a grooved metal cylinder, wrapped a sheet of tin foil around it, and used a steel needle attached to a small horn to inscribe a sound wave into the tin foil and successfully play it back. Edison's refinements were that he had replaced Scott parchment with a thin disc of glass, and the tin foil was rigid yet malleable enough to make an impression that could be mechanically traced, and thus immediately reconverted back into sound. When someone talks or plays music into the mouthpiece, sound vibrations move a needle, etching grooves into the tin foil wrapped around the cylinder. To play it back, a second needle traced those grooves, vibrating to recreate the original sound. It was a marvel of mechanical ingenuity. The sound goes into a big horn. This horn sends the sound to a thin piece called a diaphragm, which shakes when it hears the sound. The shaking diaphragm moves a tiny needle. While the phonograph's cylinder or disc spins, the needle scratches tiny lines, called grooves, into a soft surface like wax or foil. These lines match the sound. Loud sounds make deeper lines, and high sounds make closer ones. Those lines are like a picture of the sound. They hold the memory of how the sound looked and felt. To hear it again, the machine spins the cylinder or disc the same way. The needle goes through the grooves and starts to shake again, just like before. The shaking travels back through the diaphragm and out the horn. Now you can hear the voice or music again. Thomas Edison didn't just invent the phonograph. In a way, he invented recorded time. It started with a tinfoil cylinder and a man obsessed with sound. In a way, he invented recorded time. With that first trembling vibration etched into a tinfoil cylinder, he captured more than sound. In doing so, he didn't just shape the modern world. He redefined our relationship with time itself. And that's the true power of invention, not just what it creates, but how it transforms the way we live, think, and remember. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, comments, we'd love to hear them. And share this video with your family and friends. Until next time, keep listening to history. While Edison brought sound to life, the story didn't end there. We'll continue the story of recording technology. Thanks for watching.